everyone. I'm so happy to be here together. I can't tell you, this Shabbos has been beyond like inspiring. The things I have heard from one rabbi to another rabbi, from my husband, from my son, like I wish I could have recorded all of it. That's the one time like I'm like frustrated on Shabbos when I hear such gewaltig dvar Torahs and I can't write them down, I can't record it. I'm sure you all understand and go through some of those feelings too. I can't even tell you, like, the blessing we are to have this day, to have this opportunity to recalibrate, to re-encourage ourselves, to gather all of the strength, the faith, the bravery, the courage that our Rebbes have had. I was reading also throughout the Shabbos on the Frierdiker Rebbe's memoirs and teachings, and just couldn't get over the fact of how brave, if I had to say one word, brave, like under the conditions that our Rebbes have gone through. I kept thinking, as much as we've all been going through this pandemic and this isolation and this challenge of mask, no mask, this, yes, no, maybe so, to be together, to not to be together, and it's been a challenge and it's been a heartache for so many, and it's been more than a heartache for those of us who have suffered many losses. But again, I got the courage, again I got the faith, again I got a strength of just gleaning through the life of our Rebbes. And today's the day, Yud Shvat, that we can grab and hold on to and make our own all of the treasures of our forefathers, and give us the strength to continue their work. I remember learning Basi Lagani, and trust me, I've lived a life of not religious. I lived a life of religious without Hasidus, and then I lived a life with just a little Hasidus, and then every year, especially Yud Shvat, to live a life with more Hasidus. My husband said a very beautiful word on Shabbos, and he was talking about like the Rebbe's teaching on the, like, why out of all mitzvahs, the first mitzvah that we receive in the Torah is Rosh Chodesh. And of all things, you would think, you know, the Iker is maybe going to the mikvah to bring a holy baby into the world. You can think kashrut, to feed the neshamas of these holy Yidden, or Shabbat, the sanctity of the holiness of, but Rosh Chodesh, why Rosh Chodesh? And what does it have to do with us today, 2021? Well, Rosh Chodesh is really the beginning of the creation of time. And in essence, we on this earth have to value that time. We have to cherish that time. We have to not only look at time with awe and wonderment of how it was created, and look at time and look at the moon in its phases of developing its ultimate fullness. We have to look at time like our Rebbe taught us to look at time. Not to waste a moment, not to let a moment go by without it being our step closer to the Geula, the ultimate Geula. To be able to, all of us together, please God, Techev u'miyad mamish, be in Yerushalmi with Mashiach Tzidkenu. And that is why the first mitzvah that Hashem gave us is the Birkat HaChodesh, and the Birkat HaChodesh that we do every month. To be able to look at the moon and say to ourselves, look, it's not really shining right now. We're waiting for it to really come to its fruition, but we're going to do every step that we can, just like the moon goes through the phases to get to that fullness and that bright light, to not waste time. And I remember one day when I was learning a book by Rabbi Trugman on the master of time. And he was explaining how we have to really value our time and understand like how to maximize its potential. There are people who see time as linear. They go one day into the next day, into the next day, and just going forward, thankfully, going forward. But there's a higher level. And the higher level of seeing time would be seeing time in a circular motion. That we go through the same phase week after week. A Monday is another Monday, and Tuesday is another Tuesday, and we go back to another Shabbos, and we see the interconnectedness of everything of the past as it's infusing and enlightening us in another phase and another circular motion. But yet there's even a higher level. And the higher level is to have, yes, everything connected, because every movement that we make will have reverberating effects in the moment to unfold. But to be able to have like a spiral, like focus on each unfolding moment of time. What is a spiral? It lands on the same circular dimension as a circle, but it's above. And it's another layer being above, and another layer of reaching a higher level of time. Even though it seems like another Pesach and another Shvat, and it seems like another Shabbos. But how can we take everything on the linear and the circular moment of time and elevate it to make sure that it's not the same as yesterday? So it's not the same Shabbat. So it's not the same Yud Shvat. And it's not just a beautiful custom, and everything that we do as Hasidim to get together, so that it's never before like today. I remember, and I will say it every Yud Shvat, because it has been an anchor to my life. When thinking about the daunting job, like one little person against the whole world, like how is it possible that an individual, and we see it, okay, so we see it like, wow, the Rebbe and everything that he accomplished as a one person on the face of this earth, and we see great Gedolim, yes, but me, who am I? Yes, I'm a chassid of the Rebbe, chassid of the Rebbe, but in Basi Lagani it says that when the king wants to win a war, he gives all his treasures to the foot soldiers. Even all of the treasures are open up so that the foot soldier can take it and win the war. What does that mean for us? We are not we, and you are not you, and I am not I. We are God's limb. We are the soldiers of our Rebbe that has been charged to dare to care. We have been charged to go and search Yamach Shemam, the way Chas v'Chalila, the Rebbe told us to learn the lesson of even the Hitlers of the world, that how each generation has searched out, whether it's the Katniss, whether it's the KGB, and search every single Jew. We have to do the same in a holy way, to search out every individual Jew out there that may be lost, that may be lonely, that may be in a dark place, that may be trembling, that may be so hurting. And we have the King's treasures. And some of us might feel like, okay, let the young ones go out there. Let everyone out there do it. I did my part and I've done so much. And now I'm like getting a little older. People are telling me to slow down. I have to be careful what's going on. Well, thank God we have so much technology that we could sit in our comfort of our own home and do what we can do. But I think it's the bravery and the courage to say, I dare to care more. I have what to share. I have what to ignite. I have what to inspire others. And I remember at my 50th birthday almost, as I was, actually it was the 50th birthday. And I remember going to the Rebbe, and in the video it said, You don't have to look at your passport to see how you feel. Like, don't let age come into the picture here. And the Rebbe said, as long as God is your rock, you can get stronger and healthier as you age. And Adrabah, actually, you shouldn't slow down, as so many were concerned that the Rebbe wasn't slowing down. And that you understand there's only so much time left in your era of existence, and that you need to speed up and even do more than even the youngsters, because you value and you cherish the time more than the youth, and you realize that time is ticking and that every moment is so valuable in the time frame of what's allotted for us to do what we are meant to do. So if we can today on Yud Shvat, and I know so many of us are nonstop. Oh my gosh, people call me all the time, like, how can I do more? I'm just can't breathe. There's just no time left. But maybe it's bringing the quality of time in what you're doing. Maybe just that alone is a chlata that we can do today. And so instead of us feeling buried, choked, and I don't want to say more, or like we can't manage to like be present while we're doing what we're doing, whether it's a beautiful meal on Shabbos, whether it's a listening ear to our grandchild, please God, soon by all of us, or whether it's a moment in time that we're somewhere and we see some person and we just have a listening ear. You know, one of the things my children used to tell me, you know, you have to teach at 7 o'clock. You're leaving so early, because in Crown Heights, like, you know, on Shabbos, you might have to walk 20 minutes or wherever you went to go speak. And I would tell them that I want to make sure that I have enough time that along the way, every person I see, and it's not an easy feat, because if you're ever in Crown Heights, there are so many people on the block that I happen to be living 2 blocks away from 770. So like I had really a 5 or 10 minute walk, not even to 770, but I would just make sure I left many minutes earlier so that I wouldn't have that rushed feeling to get to my next destination, or whether I even went to the market. I would leave myself enough time that along the way, if I saw people, that I wouldn't give them that rushed feeling. So we can all decide, how can we bring more living moments to that godly moment? How more, even if our to-do list, and we're doing so much already, how can we more invest full life in that moment to bring a little more joy to someone else, to make someone feel less lonely, to make someone feel less confused? So many people right now are in a state of flight. Should I leave here? Should I go there? And this, it's such a confusion. And if they have that listening ear, and we could take that moment in time and make the most of it. I think for me, Yud Shvat and the preciousness of time go hand in hand. Everything the Rebbe taught us about how to not let go of one moment in time, and to be able to stand strong with courage that you're not alone in whatever we're doing to bring Mashiach now. We're not alone. We make the baby steps and the miracles go along the way. I want to just say, I have to tell you a little miracle about this book here. If you see, I used to teach in Great Neck, and I somehow left this book at one of the homes that I taught in. And recently, this is like 3 years ago, I was living in Great Neck, in the Long Island area where I used to go teach. And I was living in Crown Heights, and I go back and forth. And just recently she said, you know, I found this book, it's yours. And I'm like, she said, should I wait till you come back and give it to me? And I'm like, no, like every holy book is like so precious. I said, do you mind if you could just please send it to me? And guess what? It came like right in the nick of time. And I was able to read the Rebbe's story, the Frierdiker Rebbe's stories of how much courage, how much faith, how much strength. I mean, and every step of the way, every charge that his father gave him from a young age, he was such a little one. Whether he stood up against someone treating a non-Jew, he was like, I don't know, 10 years old or less, and he was thrown in jail for standing up to protect a Jew. He was just the little boy. And then his father would charge him to go and do dangerous missions to protect the Jewish people. And every step of the way, he just decided, I'm going. Then he met someone who gave him a pass. And that pass led him to the interior chambers of where the decree against the Jew was. He walked in like as if he's a ghost, a Jew with the yid and the beard and the everything. And no one even blinked an eye. He got in with the pass. As easily he went in, he stamped those papers, and as easily he got in, as easily he got out. Or whether it was when there was a decree to chase down all the schools and close all the schools. And there was like this wicked man who wrote years and years of papers for this decree to like be, to come about. And the Frierdiker Rebbe went, a young man, and met with this wicked man, sat in his home, and said, well, let me see these papers. And in front of this wicked man, tore all the papers. And back then, they didn't have computers. They didn't have any second printings of all their work. Years and years of his work, he shredded and shredded until it was annulled. And walked out with bravery, with strength. How many stories we learn of the strength of our Rebbes. And my favorite one is when he was really in prison and shaken up, meaning physically shaken up and beaten and thrown down the stairs and with a gun to his head almost, trying to get some information from him. He said, don't swing that, basically. That's not going to frighten me, because in your world you have one world and many gods, and I have two worlds and one God, and without just such a strong fortified faith, knowing that he's doing the right thing, and everything step by step worked out miraculously for every move he made, the Rebbe made, for our safety, for our security of our Jewish people. So how can we today not appreciate everything that our Rebbes have done for us? How can we not give back in whatever way we can to make the most of our time and to make the most of everything we could do to make a bigger, brighter, holier place with hope and faith, and constantly have, I fear no evil in mind. When the Frierdiker Rebbe was in jail, and this is another strong sentence that I keep reminding myself anytime and everywhere. I'm telling you, I've had some really rigid, rugged challenges in my life this year and the year before, but it just seems like every challenge that came my way, I kept this sentence in my mind. And the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, taught us when he was in jail, because he was about to lose that grounding. He writes in his memoirs in Lukutei Diburim, and he reminded himself of the Baal Shem Tov's teaching. Wherever you are, that's where you're meant to be, because Hashem put your steps there. It's not by accident, it's not unfortunate, and it's not like I guess I have a bad mazal. You're supposed to be there. And if you're supposed to be there, there's supposed to be a mission to be done there in whatever way. And he said at that moment, when he girded himself and with that strength of the Baal Shem Tov's teaching, he was a different man. And he noticed then and there, things were turning around for him, that he ended up having a death sentence turn to freedom. So Be'ezrat Hashem, we take the roots of his courage and his faith and his bravery. And of course the Rebbe, our Rebbe, who continued to take everything that he had gotten, and forever we are thankful for every step of our journeys, of having Chassidus, having our Rebbe to direct us. I cannot tell you every step of the way of everything that I've ever had a challenge with. I open the Igris of the Rebbe and get the most mind-blowing, miraculous like responses that it's like I feel as the Alter Rebbe teaches us, our Rebbes are here more than when they were here. As much as it's hard for those of us who did have the Rebbe, I didn't have face-to-face the Rebbe. So, you know, for me, like to have the Igris and to have firsthand, like, you know, experience of being guided and being, you know, like a daughter of a Rebbe is beyond comprehensible. It's just not to be believed in this day and age that we could have such a connection still. And more than we ever in our dreams. We should get to that place where Bezrat Hashem, we will all be together with our Rebbes in Yerushalmi, Techav Umiyad Mamish. So thank you, Chana, always for, you know, giving me the opportunity to share these holidays with you. And it just, especially in this time when we are not able to see each other in person, but Bezrat Hashem, we'll all be able to be together.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you so much. Love and blessing. It's such a special day today. I feel your energy over the waves of the internet.
Oh my gosh, I was crying almost with such deep gratefulness, like for everything that has been gifted to us, and everything of the Misrus Nefesh that our Rebbes have done for us. And it just, especially now when all around us so many people are suffering, and we need this chizuk, we need this anchor, we need this strength. We have to like just take their strength as ours and walk the walk that they would want us to walk, and not let our hearts get, you know, swayed, and to strengthen our heart with this courage.
Yeah. Miriam, you're always an inspiration. You're always, whenever I just see you, I get strength just thinking about you. Just a source of light and blessing.
And you, me, and by me to you too. Really.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I think what the Rebbe gave, the main thing, a lot of the essence of what the Rebbe gave us is a connection to holiness, to kedusha, to sanctity, to something that you can't get in books necessarily. I mean, even though the Rebbe, you know, the previous Rebbe taught a tremendous amount, and he directed a tremendous amount, and he inspired a tremendous amount, and he was a good example for a tremendous amount as a leader of world Jewry through the hardest times of the previous generation with communist Russia, and during the World War II, and during just crazy times. Even during World War I, he was alive, and it was hard times. But he was strong in his faith and inspiration and courage, and he demanded that people just stay strong no matter what. He didn't let people just let go and just say, okay, forget it. You know, we can't, like you said, it's too much, it's too hard. So what can you do? He gave over to his Chassidim to not do that. Reb Leizer Nanas was my teacher. So he also helped the previous Rebbe when the communists took over. The Frierdiker Rebbe, whose Yotzat was today, had to say Kaddish for his father. And the communists didn't allow people to go out after a certain hour at night, curfew. It's like our times, right? Curfew. Communist Russia, they had real curfew, but then it meant death, possibly. And to get a minion to come at night to the previous Rebbe's house was very difficult. So Reb Leizer, my teacher, would go out door to door and say to people, if you come to Minyan tonight, I will give you my olam haba, come, my portion in the world to come. He was a devoted chassid of the Rebbe. Hi, Susan. So so that's how the Reb Eliezer Nanas, my teacher, got how do you say? He got a minyan every night during communist Russia, during the curfew, during the lockdown, the shutdowns. But not only that, the previous Rebbe gave him a lot of strength. Did I tell you the story? Do you know the story of when Reb Eliezer was saying goodbye to the previous Rebbe, previous in Russia, and he was on his way to eventually he made it to America. But this is the Reb Eliezer remained in Russia, and he knew that he's probably never going to see her again. Jews weren't allowed to leave. And the Frierdiker Rebbe boarded the train, and Reb Eliezer, you know, this is my last time. And the previous Rebbe called him to the window to give him another message. And the message was what kept him going for the next 20 Siberia. Said, Eliezer, you're going to be taken, because Reb Eliezer was worried he was being followed by the NKVD, and he told the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe said, not right now, but you will be taken, but stay strong, because if you won't be afraid, like Mordechai HaYehudi wasn't afraid of Haman, and he stood strong and tall, and he didn't bow and didn't give in. He didn't show fear. He didn't say don't be afraid. He said don't show fear. He made that distinction to me. He said there were times he was afraid. 20 years black, trying to, you know, they tried to the best they could to get rid of him, because he had this trust and belief that the blessing was going to happen. Because if he didn't show fear, and he said if he doesn't show fear, he'll make it to Israel. And he'll make it, you know, he'll make it out of the Gulag and out of Russia, and not only that, to Israel. And that's what happened. After 20 years, he spent another 11 years in Russia until before he was able to get out. And the Rebbe, our Rebbe, this is after the previous Rebbe passed away, the Rebbe sent, he helped. It was through the Mossad. They managed to get him out of Russia. And he went to Israel, and he was my teacher in Israel. And he taught many girls. So that's a schut. So what was so special, the Rebbe appointed him to teach girls, to teach young girls who were coming to learn in Israel. So it was very inspiring to me to see that the Rebbe cared so much about girls learning Hasidus. He would take a Chassid who had gone through so many years of learning. You don't have to be, so many years of that and 20 years of Siberia and many years of helping the Rebbe, and he still made it out, and he made it out, and he was put for what? To teach me, to teach somebody like me, you know. I was blown away. I was a young teenager. I was like, who am I to get to learn with such a person? So that was then. Now everybody gets to learn with everybody. You can go online and learn from the whole world. But in those days, there was no online. There was no internet. So I was very blessed, very, very blessed. And one of the main things was also that he gave me the stories and the feeling of what it was like to live in those times.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, when you read these, like, as hard as it is, because it's like heart-wrenching, like, but it's so like eye-opening, and it's so like puts everything into perspective. Like, as much as you think this is suffering and that's and this, like, and you look back at what they went through, it just like really realigns you.
Yes, it does. We're so blessed in our generation, even though it's to be the worst year of in history.
Yes, yes.
If we look back to what it was like, World War I, World War
yes.
II,
yeah.
Soviet Russia, Communist Russia, it was, I think, a little worse. I would say quite a bit. What we're going through is like heavenly compared to that. It's just, you know, to look at things in perspective. We're at the last, I think, final push of the world as we know it to be a difficult world. And it's the whole world is uniting, and I think in a certain way, even though it seems like we're all divided and all, in a way everybody's united in that we need to save lives, we need to stay alive, we need to move forward to help humanity. We are all in it together in a way. If one person is sick, everybody could get sick. Everybody cares about not just themselves, they have to care about everybody in the world. And now it's a shift. It's a shift that's, everybody's going through this to see that, we really do care about each other, and we need to care about each other. We are one big family. We really get that, it's a death situation that we get it, not just in theory. So it's wonderful to see how doing things that we never thought we'd do. A lot of companies are doing things we never thought they would do. Governments, people are inventing things, people are helping, people are doing good deeds. It's an amazing, amazing shift in this world. So I was thinking, Miriam, unless you have something else to say, I wanted to share a little bit of Vasilagani, but you could say something.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
what?
No, I spoke for my full share. But go ahead, pursue, and then if we have time left over, I'll continue.
Okay, so there's these books. Okay, it's in Hebrew, but there's the mimers are the deepest part of what the Rebbe would teach. The Rebbes, all the 7 Chabad Rebbes, would teach what's called the mimer, great deep esoteric things. And it's actually, because it's so deep, it touches the essence of our soul. It was given with a melody before, melody afterwards, and it was given with like a different tune of the way the Rebbe spoke, a different tempo, a different vibe. Everything was different. The Rebbe's eyes were closed. The Rebbe was like in a trance almost. Okay, this is mimer. Special talk that he would give only on special days also. It wasn't every day of the year that you could get a mimer. So a mimer is a deep esoteric message, and it could be for like an hour. The Rebbe would say a mimer, all by heart, all just divine influence just coming out of his being, and right, it's like a download, we can call it. So what's amazing is that he's comparing our generation, our times, to being an actual soldier in a war. And he said, when a king has to wage a battle, like in the old days, we know the stories of the kings that had to go actually fight. They had to recruit their army, and they had to go, let's say they had to protect their country, or protect their, somebody was invading their land. So they had every last precious thing from the treasury that the king had and sell it and use it for the army. And happily the king would do it without making a calculation, just throw it out there, give soldiers whatever they need, give them best, and the king himself would go out to the war, give up his comfort, maybe even give up his life. Because when there's a war, you have to win. You have to fight till you finish. If there's a threat. So the concept of winning, in Hebrew it's called netzach, to victory, to win, takes a very innermost, deep process, deep awareness and awakening from the depths of our. It's not just a nice love, or it's not just a nice feeling of compassion, or it has to come from a very deep place of being willing to fight to win, which takes an inner strength. Now, the Rebbe says we are in a generation where we all need to have that, what's called netzach. That our motto, our drive, our energy, our life force. That's what's going to get us through all the darkness that we're going through. We're in a dark world. There is a lot of difficulty, hardships, cover-ups on God. We want to reveal God to ourselves and to the world. We need that inner strength of netzach, which is victory, which is to fight to win, which brings out a very deep, essential part of our soul, which is beyond even what's comfortable, beyond what's understandable, beyond what's, being willing to give up the most precious gems and most precious artifacts of the country and just throw it out there to soldiers to do whatever they need to do is a big deal. And for the king to be willing to go out and be uncomfortable, go out in the trenches and maybe even give up his life, that's a big deal, because this desire to win comes from a part that's even beyond pleasure and beyond will, beyond the pleasure of the comforts, beyond the pleasure of having all this, wealth. So that's kind of, if we have, though, the Rebbe says, that inner strength from that place of victory, that we're battling evil, then we will get from Hashem all this otzar, all this treasure, all the treasures of the king. God has spiritual treasures for us. Spiritual come to us in the form of joy, insight, down of seeing divine providence, feeling God's presence, feeling God's divine providence on us, feeling God connected and loving us, embracing us, helping us, guiding us. So all this, that's the gifts, that's the treasures that the King, God, is giving us when we're trying to fight this war of bringing God revealed into this world right now and getting rid of all the darkness in the world. So we're fighting a battle and we're getting the treasures of the King. And the treasures of the King are manifest and very clear to us when we're learning Hasidus, because Hasidus is one of the deepest treasures. And that helps us bring it into our consciousness and being able, but just being able to bring Hashem revealed in whatever way we know and can, like you said, with being, giving an encouragement to somebody who's down, helping somebody who's in need. All these things will also, if we're doing it from the place of like, I'm here to, bring the goodness of God into the world, then we're going to get these treasures. So that's one little point from the Maimon. Another thing that he says is that when we come through the hardships that we're going through now, there's a reason. There's a reason that God covers himself, hides himself, conceals himself from us. It's not just for nothing. There's a purpose. When we go through this process of having to discover God in the darkness and bring Hashem, bring godliness, bring light and revelation of Hashem into a dark world, we have to really dig deep within ourselves to overcome anything from within and without might stop us, whatever it could be. It could be shame, it could be laziness, it could be distraction, it could be lack, whatever a person feels they lack in order to do their mission or bring goodness into the world. All these things that stop a person, overcomes them, they have to take inner strength to do that. It takes a little more, a deeper connection than we would have done if we wouldn't have had the obstacle. So the obstacles in Chassidus, it teaches us, is really our friend. It's not a real enemy. It's not a true enemy. It's just a tool for Hashem to get us to bring revealed into further places and more difficult places and more painful places. And every time we think of Hashem and we bring consciousness of godliness into this pain or this suffering or this darkness, it's revealing God into a new place that he was not revealed before. God, God consciousness, awareness. So that's our purpose. So to be upset about it doesn't help. To be anxious about it is not helpful either. This is our mission. And the only thing we need to do is really to tap into our inner strength, tap into the godly soul powers that we have. And sometimes we need a friend to help us do this. Sometimes we need a mentor. Sometimes we need to learn. But whatever it takes, we gotta do this, because it's up to each and every one of us. And we see how important each person is now. Every person has to not say, "Oh, I'm not the one who has to do it. Somebody else has to." No, we see now with this epidemic, everybody's important. One person can change the whole world. One person's deed, good or bad, can make a huge influence and a huge impression that could go viral. So this is a time where we're in like the last of the darkness world. The darkness is being pushed away. The godliness is being revealed. What were you saying?
Amen, amen, amen.
Amen. Amen. Yes. It's just a lot of Tanya is just to get us not to be upset, not with ourselves, not with, yeah, not to.
I'd say that on one foot. That's what it is, really.
Not Tanya's there to not get, so we learn how to not get upset.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the divine plan, with others. Yes, exactly. Well said. So beautifully said.
With ourselves.
It was so touching when I was reading the stories of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Like, you see the Frierdiker Rebbe, as we said, so strong, with so much bravery and so much strength. But throughout the stories, you see how he cried. He cried. And every time I'm like reading the story that he cried, I'm like so touched. Like, to be that strong, to be that courageous, yet to keep your heart soft, open, with feeling. I mean,
yes.
I feel like where can we be toughening our heart, but yet be so soft,
yes,
and so open, and so compassionate, and so loving, is a feat that we've been like gifted with, that and not to take it for granted, that we have the power to be able to have both opposite extremes in our one heart, and not have it be a divided heart, even in the midst of sometimes having to be so strong, but yet so soft and so loving.
Well, also the Alter Rebbe says we could have joy and gladness on one side, and we can have we could have two simultaneous feelings, and it's not it's not abnormal. It's okay. It's possible because we have two souls.
Yes, and I remember when I was learning a sikha of the Rebbe, that the Rebbe was teaching us, if we look at a Tehillim of David HaMelech, we can learn so much of what today is needed of us, and how we can follow David HaMelech's lead. One of the things the Rebbe taught us is that this generation is the generation of Simcha. If back then, if you look at the Tehillim of David HaMelech, within 5 sentences, the David HaMelech talks about the sorrow, and then he switches to absolute joy within 5 sentences. And that was back then. And the Rebbe and his teaching for our generation is Simcha. So that if anything, while we're in that midst of a little sad, or like that teary feeling of a heartache and whatever that we're dealing with, like, to know that how much more so within 5 sentences we should switch to joy. Like, it should not be longer than what it would take us to say that 5 sentences. If it was back then, how much more so the generation that the Rebbe gave us a horah, that we can fill our mouths with joy. Never in the time of the Jewish people were we given the permission. We weren't allowed to fill our mouths with joy. Now the Rebbe says we're allowed to fill our mouths with joy. We might not see things that will make our mouths fill with joy, but we have to be proactive, the Rebbe said. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, that means it's work. It's not like you're going to be able to fill your mouth with joy because you want to. No, it's work. You have to work at bringing that fulfillment of that promise of what our Rebbe gave us the permission to do, which we weren't allowed to before. And if you look at the word simcha, it has machshava. It all starts with the state of the mind and not the city of awfulness. I was sitting at a Farbrengen Friday night at the Rebbitzin and Rebbe Geula Newman and her husband, and he was saying he recently had these people staying in at his home, and they had the company of clothing, and he was asking them, what's the name of this company? They said the brand of our clothing is awful, and he was like, awful? Like, what? I mean, how awful is that? And he was kind of like taken aback, like, interesting. I mean, today anything goes, but that's awful. So they said, no, if you look at the word, it's and full.
Full.
So that we're trying to help people see that in everything, depending how you look at it, will be what you want it to be. So, and especially right now, when I was hearing him say that, I think today's number one, like, avoida is to increase our awe and wonderment in because there's so much fear and there's so much anxiety. Fear and anxiety is the unrectified level of kedusha, of awe and wonderment. So if you're not accessing and developing this awe and wonderment, then Yetzer Hara will take it and like play with it, and your faculty of imagination will really have fun with it and like really make you fearful. Yes. I remember when there was so many WhatsApps going on, and and I don't get to hear all of them. Oh my gosh, everyone put me in everyone's group. Thank you, Hashem, and I get to be part of everything, but you don't have time to listen to it all. But one of our Torah, I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, it said that in the Slichot prayer, there's a prayer that says, I pray, please God, that you protect me from the fear of the plague. As hard as it is, and as anxious provoking it could be to like every step people are thinking, if I go here, if I go there, am I gonna like that? The fear of it is what I'm praying to be protected from. Right. And exactly. The way to protect yourself from that fear is to develop awe and wonderment. What is to develop awe and wonderment? Like if you just look in the Siddur and everything that Hashem does in the world, you start to, if you really read the words with a little more precision and with a little more care, you'll be like blown away, like at God's awe and wonderment. And in tefillah, that's where you develop it. But unlike love of Hashem, that does also get developed in tefillah, because you're thinking like he takes care of the poor and he takes care of the widow and he feeds the birds and all the things that we read daily that we don't maybe pay attention as much to develop from that word on wonderment, or to develop such love of Hashem that he cares so much. But unlike love of Hashem that can only be developed in davening, in Kuntrus Avodah, the Rebbe Rashab says that you can develop awe and wonderment throughout the day. How? By attaching your mind to Hashem's divine providence. You got a parking spot? Wow, how awful. So much awe. So much full of awe that he paid attention to make sure you left the house at the exact time to be able to get that spot. Or you're in a situation and something's about to spill and it doesn't spill on your white dress. And you're like, oh, that would have been an oil stain that cannot be there. And God protected you. That moment, instead of just being thankful, like develop and cultivate and a feeling of awe and wonderment of Hashem and his divine hand in your life. How many times we're cutting vegetables and almost we're cutting ourselves, God forbid, or how many times different moments of the day that like these little things, we just go, oh, wow, thank you, Hashem. But like to really capture that moment of awe and wonderment, you'll see and you'll notice less and less fear, less and less anxiety, less and less panic, less and less being overwhelmed by, because you're so much in a delightful state of awe and wonderment, there's no time to think of anything else but Hashem is with you, Tamid, always in front of me, inside me, everywhere, lifting me, carrying me, embracing me, loving me. And so every step of the day, remember, we started this with the power of the moment. Not to let a moment go by when you don't see Hashem's hand in your life, when you don't, for a moment, let go of hashgacha pratis and acknowledge and be grateful and dance and fill your mouth with joy in that moment. Then you'll see, wow, there was a day and I didn't even think of what will be and the unknown and how could I and should I, and there's no time for that. You're just so full of awe and wonderment. And how awful is that? How awful is that? And that's going to be my new mantra, to be able to continuously feel the awe and wonderment. And trust me, I can't even tell you, it's not easy. As a counselor, all day long, I'm hearing the misery and the pain and the heartache. And it's like a challenge every day not to get swallowed up by what's some of us are going through, some of us in. So as I'm saying this, I'm saying it to myself, because I have to constantly inject myself by reading and learning and re-inspiring myself. And trust me, when I get invited to speak, I'm like, thank you, Hashem, because I need to hear this too. But the saying, when you pray and you have to say the words, God hears you. You don't have to say it so loud, but you need to hear it. You need to hear those words. You need to upgrade your awe and wonderment so that you don't get to that robotic, another day, another week, and stay in that linear or circular. You need to spiral, go to the next level, go to the next level. I remember one time, Rabbi Jacobs, I have to tell this story. Okay. And he was in teaching us about this concentration camp victim who was in a train. Mm-hmm. And in those days, it wasn't like the trains where you have heating. It was open and it's cold dead of winter. And some man was like, warm me. And he was so old man asking this other man to like massage him and warm him. And the whole time, he was really annoyed at the old man. Like, I'm tired, I'm cold, I want to go to sleep, leave me alone. And he would eventually fall asleep. And eventually the old man would shake him up, wake him up, warm me. The whole night he was warming him. In the end of the dawn, when day broke and there was light of day, guess who survived the dead of winter night? The man that was warmed and the man that was warming. That's what we need to do. We need to keep warming others, and as we're doing it, we're warming ourselves up, and we'll breathe in the kedusha, and we'll spread that breath to another. Our neshima will be full of our neshama, and it'll give us life, and it'll continuously give us oxygen. And we think we're doing it for them. It's also a lot for ourselves.
So it's very interesting, because when we focus on others rather than ourselves, that is also the motto of this mimer, the Basilagani mimer that I was reading today, where our Rebbe explains the service of our generation is, which is to do the final things of all the culmination of all generations before us. We've got the best tools and we've got the most abilities to do it. And what the Rebbe is saying is, like, really, we don't have to work on ourselves so much anymore. It's like, it's not about being somebody amazing or becoming something amazing anymore. That's not our job. Our job is not to be an awesome person or be an aware person or be a kind person. Those are wonderful traits, but that's not the goal that the Rebbe says that we need to work on anymore. That was for the past generations. Our generation, our goal is just to bring God's light into the world, to bring revelation, to bring awareness, consciousness of godliness, that God is the true reality, that nothing should frighten us. The whole world is a good place if we make it a good place, if we reveal godliness in the world. These concepts, these ideas that Hasidus teaches us, this is our mission, is to bring that awareness, bring consciousness and awareness to the world. And we don't have to work on ourselves so much anymore. If we just focus on that, focus on the goals of the global world, then we'll already be fixed. Like you said, we'll be warm, we'll be fine, we'll be okay. We're already fine. That's kind of what the Rebbe is saying. You don't need to be. We're here to fight a war. We're here to fight a battle, to fight evil, to fight darkness, to reveal godliness. And when you do that, it's like, it's okay. Everything else is not as, it doesn't take that space, doesn't take away, doesn't drag us down, doesn't bring us down, doesn't get us involved in the things that take away from our energy. Our energy is busy with shining light. So which is a thing. It's an amazing thing. It's so powerful, it's so awesome to think that we're these like foot soldiers of godliness in the world. We're shining God's most powerful light that could be. We have the technology to do it. We have the smarts to do it. We have the lights to do it. We have the internet to do it. We have everything we need to be faculties of awareness and consciousness into the world to all parts of the globe of the world. It's an amazing concept. And if we just focus on that, okay, how can I get a good message out there today? How can I make somebody's day better today through just one word? If that's our goal, then everything else is going to be okay. Everything else will work out. It's not, life is not so, we make our life difficult. It's not really, we all have the ability to transcend whatever it is that we have, or make it through if we have a good positive attitude. And we put, so that's just my little 2 cents to what you were just saying about the warming the other person. It's just, that's what the Rebbe talks about in the Basilagani.
Thank you for joining, everyone. And I'm so touched that we had the chance to celebrate the continuation of Yud Shvat together, and may all the words burn in our hearts forevermore, and take all the legacy and all the hora'as and all the power and all the bravery and all the courage and the belief in ourselves as being the continuation of all of time and history, for the moment of just another smile, another kind word, another loving moment. And let's just keep spiraling and spiraling ourselves up to experience just that next moment of Kedusha.